Hey everyone! So I am going to be doing a pretty cool video today. Hopefully y'all like this kind of video. If you don't, you read the description. Just don't watch it. Because I know there's somebody out there who keeps on hitting that dislike button and I don't know what that's about. One person in almost every video. If you don't like me, don't watch my videos. Anyways, this month is October. And I was going to make a few spooky videos because, well, a lot of spooky stuff has happened in my life. And I thought it would be pretty cool to share some of those things with you. But today I have a special guest. And I'm going to introduce my special guest to you. So, come in. Okay. Introduce yourself. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Sky.
And who are you? Scoot that way a little bit. You're like halfway out of it. Okay, so who are you?
Sky?
And who are you to me?
Her daughter.
So this is my daughter, Sky. And she has no idea what this video is going to be about. Do you have any clues?
Stories. Like
Yes, it's gonna be stories
about stuff we've seen.
Yes. Yep, exactly. So this video, everyone, is going to be ghost stories. So we're going to be telling you some ghost stories, some things that actually happened to us in real life, not fake, made-up stories. Now, some of you are not going to believe anything that we say, but that doesn't matter, because we don't care what you think, if that's how you feel about us. So we're going to go ahead and get started with some of these ghost stories. Let me try and get this camera back a little more. That might help. Okay, so now do you want to start? No? Alright, so I personally have had ghost experience ever since I was little. And what I mean by little is probably 3 or 4 years old. It's from some of the times that I can remember really weird, spooky stuff happening. And this was before I even knew what ghosts were, spirits were, or anything like that. And what about you?
Probably started about 4.
So, yeah, that seems to be a given thing. And I suppose because I am very in tune with some of the things that happen, that it's going to pass off to her. And she's going to be very intuitive as well. So, some weird stuff has happened, and just unbelievable things. So, when I was little, one of the earliest things that I can remember is I lived in an apartment building with my mom and my siblings, and there was this big closet in the hallway, and I used to like to go in there and hide. For some reason, I felt really calm and comfortable. But then as I started to get older in this apartment, and we probably lived there for maybe 2 years, I started feeling really eerie about going in that closet. I no longer wanted to go in there anymore. I felt it very scary, and I never really understood why because I was too young at that time, being I was like in kindergarten, something like that. And just from that point on, every house that we moved into from that point had been haunted in one way or another. Rather it was one ghost, rather it was a bad spirit, people who had died in that house or apartment. And so, yeah. And do you want to go ahead and pop out a story there, or we got some wheels turning?
The earliest thing I remember was we were in this apartment. Yeah. And I was sleeping in the living room one night.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to stay up. And I did most of the night. And I was watching cartoons. And then all of a sudden I hear this noise. And I look over towards the kitchen because the kitchen and the living room were attached. And I saw like this human and no one was awake, and it looked like a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just walking, and then I saw her go through the wall and just disappear. So I was like kind of freaked out at the time, and I eventually went to sleep, and I woke up and just told her. So.
All right. So this is her first time being on a video with me, so she's a little bit nervous, but that's all right. So let's see. I know what apartment she's talking about. That particular place was very spooky. I would say that apartment had a portal in it, and it allowed a lot of spirits and ghosts and weirder things to just come on through the wall. And it was a particular spot that the animals in the house and the apartment did not like that particular place. They kind of stayed away from it. And anytime I would take pictures throughout the apartment that we lived in, you would see orbs or weird shadows, weird streaky things. And there was no way that it could have been dust, because just constantly taking, dust settles in a strange way. It does not settle in that sort of way. That was weird things happening. But in that apartment, I do have to say a lot of weird stuff happened. Like, for instance, I would fall asleep and I would just feel like something was watching me, and I would wake up, and when I did, there was always some kind of weird figure of a person or just something always above me. Like, I remember this one particular time when I was asleep and I felt something just graze my eyelashes, and it woke me up out of a good sleep. And I was like, should I open my eyes? And I opened my eyes, and there was this weird lady. I don't know what she was. A ghost, spirit, demon, something. Anyway, she was not very far from my face. She was floating above me, and her hair was dark, but it was just waving around as she was floating above me. She didn't say anything. I got a real good picture of her face, and the dress she was wearing was very old-fashioned, kind of witch-type style dress. I don't know, I just looked at her for a while, and eventually she faded away to nothing. And, you had anything to add about anything that you seen like that, or particulars?
Let's see. There was this one time I woke up, and at the time I was sleeping in her room because I was afraid. And I woke up, and I was walking around the apartment,
Mm-hmm.
and then I walked into the living room where my aunt was sleeping, and I heard like as if a man were walking through the house, and I turned to look where the noise was coming from, and there were boots. But like when you look towards our other couch, there was this little figure, and it looked up at me and like waved at me, and it was like this snake like color. And like I started crying, and I told my aunt that I saw something. And then the next morning, I told my mom, and she said it was probably just like my imagination.
I did think it was your imagination.
Yeah. Then you can tell your part.
So basically, I thought maybe she had watched one too many scary movies, because we did like to watch scary movies. And her dad liked to tell me that I was crazy and I shouldn't talk about ghosts or spirits or aliens or anything like that. He was very narcissistic. And he would tell me not to tell the children things because it's going to twist their minds. It's going to make them think. I don't think so. Because they started telling me stuff that they seen in that apartment before I had even said anything. And that particular creature, whatever it was, some might say it was a little demon. The best thing I can describe it as was a very, very, very tiny reptilian alien. And sleeping in my room, and something woke me up, and I happened to just open my eyes and look, because for some reason I was often woke up in this apartment to weird noises or just feeling a weird presence staring at me. And when I opened my eyes, I couldn't believe what I seen. And there's nothing in this world that looked like that. It was a very, very tiny. And no, I was not in some kind of sleepy paralysis state. Absolutely not. Because I was able to fully functionally move my body. I was capable of full thought. And whatever this thing was really there. It was kind of on my chest area. But it wasn't sitting on me. It was kind of floating as well. And I went to touch it, but it disappeared too. But not in the same way that the witch lady did. It was more different. But I could see some scale type patterns. The eyes were real big. And the body itself was real small, though. The head was heart-shaped.
Yeah.
It just had like... The skin texture was like a crocodile or a snake or something, but if you would have touched it, it probably would have been very rough feeling. That's the only way I can describe it. And I could see it in full color. It was like a greenish, I don't know, a green and bark, like off the tree colored.
Kind of like a gecko.
Yeah. I don't know. Weird. But I never seen it again after that, and I guess it was just my way of seeing that it was real, whatever it was, because I tried to tell her that it was fake. There's no way it was real, and boom, I see it, so it was real. In that house, there was, the kids, they had their room, but there was a lot of times when toys were being played with that...
Yes.
There was no one in there, How can toys be played with if no one's in there?
I distinctly remember there was a boy and a girl, and they were both children,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw them walking around, and I'd hear their voices, and they'd laugh, and
Oh yeah.
sometimes mine and my brother's toys would come on. And my little brother had this bed, and it was a race car, and we kept our toys in there because we didn't really like our room. And my uncle was sleeping in our room for the night, and we were sleeping in my mom's. And that night, he woke up, and he got freaked out because he saw shadows of children, and he thought it was me and my little brother. And he kept telling us to go to our room, but we weren't in there. And then he got freaked out after the shadows disappeared. And he went to the hallway, and lo and behold, my mother was there.
Yeah, because something woke me up too. I don't know what happened, but I had like this really freaky incident. I can't remember what it was, but something scared me so bad that I was like, I gotta get out of this room. And I went to the hallway, which was right next to the other room where he was sleeping at. And he was like, there's a ghost in here. And I was like, what do you mean? And I said, seriously? And I had goosebumps sticking up all over my body. I was so freaked out, and I was so scared. And I was like, no. I was like, there's a ghost in my room. I was like, I don't know where to go. I mean, what do you do in a situation like that? You run outside? It's nighttime out there. I don't know. I was freaked out. But he was like, well, I thought the kids were sleeping in here. And I was like, no, the kids are sleeping in my room because they don't like sleeping in their room because too much stuff happens in there. And he said, well, I thought they were in there playing on the bed, and I heard the toys moving around. And then I saw the outline of a child under a blanket. So he said he kept telling them to stop playing with the toys because it was time to go to sleep. Then he finally got aggravated. He got up, went to the bed to be like, rah, scare them. And he said when he did that, there was nothing there. There was nothing under that blanket. It just kind of lost shape. And he got freaked out. He ran out of the room, and he was coming to my room to tell me. And here I am running out of my room to go tell him. Some weird stuff was happening. But, yeah, that apartment, that was definitely one of the hot spots
Yeah.
for weird stuff to happen. But besides that apartment, as I was growing up, there was plenty of houses that I lived in that were all haunted. I mean, I remember seeing some of the scariest things that I could see. Lights would come on. How's that? How is the light just going to come on with a switch when nobody's touching it? Or things go sliding off of counters in the kitchen. Our toothbrushes used to get moved out of the bathroom and set in the hallway nice and neatly. We had a few crosses and we had a few Jesus pictures in our house when we were little kids that my mom had hung on the wall. And they would be on the floor, sitting on the floor, face down. There was just a very creepy house that we lived in. And I had a bunk bed, and I had the top bunk. And every night when the lights would go out, you would feel like somebody was climbing up the ladder to get in that bunk bed with you. The bed would just shake as somebody was coming up the stairs. And I was so scared, and I probably had like 10 blankets. And I would take every single blanket I had, and I would hide underneath of them. And in that house, when I would peek out of the blanket, I would see these little shadowy figures flying above my head. And I remember I was in therapy because I was a rotten teenager who was going through a lot of stuff in my life at this time. And I remember telling the therapist that was a bad idea. I should have never done that. Because they were like, well, that's just crazy. But I know it's not. I know what I saw was true. It was real. A lot of people are not going to believe me without some kind of proof. But, a 10-year-old is not going to have a camera to take pictures of that kind of stuff. I had no idea what was happening to me. I was afraid to tell my mom because I thought she wouldn't believe me. And then eventually when I finally did tell her, it started kind of freaking her out. And that's when she started to notice, hey, faucet sinks are coming on. Lights are being flipped on and off. Stereos are coming on. TVs are coming on with really spooky sounding voices. There was this one house that I lived in, and the stereo was off. And it came on. I was afraid. I wanted to run out of the house, but I didn't want that loud speaker being on. So I ran in my mom's room. I turned off the radio. And as soon as I walked out of that door, it came back on. And I was even more freaked out at this point, but I was like, no, you gotta brave up. Go back in there and turn it off. So I ran back in there, and I was afraid. It was daylight. I was the only one home. I turned it off again, unplugged it, walked out. The second I walked out, well, I didn't really walk out, I ran out. But the second I ran out of that room, it comes on again. How's that happen? How does a radio turn itself on and then turn itself on while it's unplugged? Don't know. There is no other explanation, but that house right there was very haunted as well. A lot of weird stuff would happen in that house. I don't know what happened there in that house particularly. Yeah, you got any stories you want to tell?
In this house right here, when we first moved in, there's about...
Are you...
There's about 4 different things that really happened. First of all, we found like different pictures and stuff in my old room. There's a picture of a little blonde girl that me and my my dad have saw, and she usually wears pink. There's a little boy who looks exactly like my little brother, and I was in the living room one time, And I thought my brother had came in because I felt like a presence with me. And I looked over and I saw my little brother, and he was like holding my hand. And it felt warm, like human touch. And I was watching the TV, and I was like, okay, you can watch TV now. And I set the controller down, and then all of a sudden this warmth was gone, and I felt alone. And I looked over, and my brother wasn't there. And I paused what I was watching and went in my mom's room. And I asked, was my little brother just in the living room? And everybody in the room, my little brother, my dad, and my mom, said, no, he wasn't. And I was like, you sure? And they said, yeah. And I told them what had happened. And then about a day later, my stepdad had saw that little boy. And one time when we were setting up the bunk bed, which is in mine and my brother's room, we didn't have the drawers under the bed yet. And, like, the blanket went under the bed, and I looked under there, and he was there. The little boy was. And then one time, I was reading, and I had the blanket over my legs. And then I felt like someone was crawling up my legs. And I felt like these child hands coming up my legs. So that scared me. So, yeah.
Now, I gotta say, in this house, particularly, I have not had very many run-ins. I've felt like being spied on. I've seen a few ghost animals.
Yes,
I've heard people talking. Or just feeling really, really uncomfortable, like I'm being watched, or even waking up in the middle of the night. But as far as actually seeing them, I have not seen them. And I don't know why, but everyone else has seen them in this house. And I've even taken pictures, and you can see the ghost orbs. Or we've had walkie-talkies going around in the house, and you can pick up a really weird voice depending on where you go. Now, I don't know if that's picking up on somebody's radio, but, you know, with a house like this house is old. It's in Texas. It is on property that, you know, Native Americans have been on. I could just imagine. Ooh, storm outside. That scared me. We're over here
like,
telling ghost stories, and I was like, oh god, what happened?
like aliens.
Yeah. So this house is old, and the property is in a place where there were Comanche Indians, and I could only imagine what kind of stuff could have happened on this property before anything, because this house is shaped really, really weird, and there's always constantly a smell of smoke in this house. It's not cigarette smoke.
It's like always in this hallway right here.
It's like a burnt smell. And I don't understand why that is, or why this house is laid out like it is. Like, to me, it makes me think of a church, or it was a business, or maybe even some kind of funeral home. Because underneath of the house, there's peelers, and it just goes straight to the ground. So it's our wood floor. There's nothing between the wood floor and the dirt in the ground. We've went under the house checking out stuff underneath of here before, and we always find weird stuff under there. There's a lot of stuff from when this place was remodeled. There's a lot of pipes under there for, I don't know what they're really for. Glass canning jars. There was just
found a baby bottle, glass baby bottle.
Mm-hmm.
We found like paper that was burnt,
Yeah,
like ash. And we found like bones.
Yeah, which is the weirdest thing, because I still cannot figure out why there would be ash with bones under the house. Why? Why would that be? It just kind of puzzles me. I'm not sure why. And any information that I've tried looking up on this house, I can't find anything. I can find one or two different owners of this house, but other than that, I can't find any information about this place. So that doesn't make any sense to me either. I'm pretty sure if I dug a little deeper or went to the library, I might find something, but I'm kind of afraid to because I don't want to live here no more as it is. And when we have guests over, when we have family who come and stay and visit, the ghosts seem to get real active.
Yeah.
And they kind of let themselves known that they're here. You know, it's gotten to the point where even though I don't think they're bad spirits, they're bad ghosts or anything, I do not sleep with the light off. I use one of my fish tank lights. There are night lights throughout the house. I leave the whole light on. My kids like sleep in my room because it's too creepy otherwise. Yeah, you got any more stories before we end this one?
I think there's the one from about 2 days ago, which I was in the shower and I heard this humming, and like I got out of the shower because I got finished with washing my hair, and then I got out and like this humming got louder, and I was like, okay, you're just crazy. But then I heard like this bang noise, and I look over towards the window, which is far too high for even my stepdad, which is 6'1", who is really tall. He can reach up there. He could barely reach it with his fingertips. And I saw this gray thing, and it like sunk behind the brick. And that freaked me out. And I hate mirrors and anything that shows my reflection. Anyways. But, like, there was this one incident where I was staring at this blank TV screen, and then all of a sudden I see this person walk past, and I could see this in the TV, and they look at me and then disappear. So that freaked me out. Yeah.
Yeah, and in this house, I remember when we first moved in here, you could always hear the sound of somebody walking in the attic.
Yes.
There's no way anybody can actually stand straight up and walk in that attic. This attic is just falling apart. If anybody were to walk there, they would probably fall through if they're not careful.
And like I've been up there, and within like 2 minutes, it felt like I was suffocating because that's how hot it is up there.
It's very hot, and we found a lot of weird stuff up there.
Yes, we found like a shopping cart, pine cones, stuff like that.
There's a lot of toys up there.
Yes.
There's a lot of old magazines.
Board games. We found this thing as if like on one of those baby things. I don't know.
You mean a little baby carriage? Oh, you mean like
old-fashioned chair, high chair.
Oh, okay.
That, and we found like the cushion to it.
We found trophies.
Yeah.
Old-fashioned basketball. I mean, not basketball, but
baseball. Bats.
Yep. Some just really odd stuff up there, and
it sounded like there was furniture being pushed one time. And we like to joke about how there's like this guy in the attic, but there's never something up there.
We like to say that he needs to pay rent because he does if he's up there, but there's no one there. There's someone, but there's no one. And you know, you gotta try and make it a good thing out of nothing, but yeah. So that's some of our ghost stories, and we thought that it would be a good time to share some of those with you. So hopefully you enjoyed this little video. Hopefully we didn't freak you out too much. But thank you for watching, and we'll be back for some more stuff before this month is over with spooky, scary things.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye now.